Greetings all, this is Hairy Nick. How is everyone going? We have all the points for X-Wing Wave 5 gone live. Yes, good job FFG. We actually got all the ships and the points out at the right time this time, which is excellent. This is really good. It's really important that we get the points out before the ships come out, so any LGS that wants to run like a wave release tournament can do that. Wave 4 was a bit of a mess where a lot of places, Australia included, got a heap of stuff like a month before the points came out. So yeah, I don't mind if the ships come out just before the points come out, as long as we know the timing every time. But the situation that happened now is great because we're getting the points today. In a couple of days, we're getting all the ships out, at least here in Australia. So this is a good result. FFG, keep doing this. And let's talk about all of these new points changes. Apart from anything else, on the original three factions on Scum, Rebel and Empire, all of the new ships that are coming out in this wave, that are all re-releases of first edition ships, are going to be going into hyperspace. Apart from that, there's no new hyperspace legalities. It's all part and parcel of that. We got the TIE Advanced V1, the VCX 100, the Sheathipede, which comes in that pack, the Punishing One, and the Sick Fighter, and all the cards associated with them. I'm not going to go through them this time. Suffice to say that all of this becoming hyperspace legal, I don't think it's going to shake up the format too much, apart from the fact that the TIE Advanced V1 is doing a lot of work in Extended right now. So we might be seeing a few of those lists dominating hyperspace very soon. Not necessarily everything that's flown alongside that is currently legal in hyperspace, but there are also things like Darth Vader, the TIE Reaper. There's lots of options that ship can fly alongside, so in upcoming hyperspace tournaments, expect to see a lot of that. For the time being, let's have a look at the points that have been assigned to these new ships and upgrades, starting off with the Separatist faction, with the Nantex class Starfighter we have here in front of us. This only has talents. Now, it is worth pointing out that there was sort of some rumblings that this was supposed to have the modification slot, and FFG might fix this. It does come in the pack with the targeting computer, so it's a bit confusing, but by the same token, like the Fang Fighter had afterburners, and it can't take that card, so that's a bit confusing. I'm assuming it's going to be on some of the quick build cards, like the situation with the Fang Fighter. And indeed, it really wouldn't make any sense to put this in any of the other packs coming out in the wave. So I guess it makes the most sense, if that makes sense. Whatever, we're getting targeting computer. It's going to come out in the pilot and upgrade card pack in due course anyway. So whatever, it's entered into the game. That's the most important thing. And yes, we have a bit of an A-Wing situation going on here, because we have double talents on all of the named pilots apart from Gorgle, and also on the generic Patronica Arena Ace. Words. Yes, now this is especially relevant on Sun Fac. Also, Sun Fac sitting just about where I thought he was going to be, just a hair more expensive than Sunterfell. Feels just about right to me. We'll talk about the talent that goes on him in a second. But yeah, double talents is not something I was expecting. I was expecting a card like Ensnare to be the only thing you could put on Sun Fac. The fact that it was a talent was meant to be a bit more of a cost. And you can still do that, obviously, but you can also do that alongside things like Predator, Crackshot, Trickshot, and all those kinds of shenanigans, which is going to be very, very interesting. It may be a case of Ensnare is just too expensive, and we do things like Trickshot and Crackshot, or like Crackshot and Treacherous and all kinds of things. Very curious to see what kind of options come out of this, but just like the A-Wings, I'm sure there'll be a lot of experimentation on that. Sun Fac at 54 points, and the generic at 34 points down at the bottom end. A hair cheaper than I would have expected, but nothing outrageous here. So we have Ensnare at a base level cost of 10 points, at initiative, 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 16 points for initiative 5, 24 points for initiative 6, but look, Ensnare is just nuts on the Initiative 6 Sun Fac. Basically what's happened here is they've costed this way more than they actually costed the frame of the ship, which is good because the ship being a bit cheaper than we would have expected means you can experiment more and put lots of cheaper talents on it. Obviously, yes, the cost of putting this on Sun Fac is immense, but we also have to remember that The roof on this is absolutely disgusting. The kind of double reposition and reposition your opponents, even their aces. Yeah, that can do some really dumb things. So it feels expensive, but at the same time, this is something quite unheard of in this game. So I don't think this is too ridiculous. I honestly think, just like the situation with like the Delta 7B on Anakin Skywalker, this is still going to see some play. It's still going to do some dumb things in some tournaments, and it may even go up in cost like the Delta 7B did. Also, Gravitic Deflection being at 5 points, probably a bit more expensive than I would have liked, to be honest. It is quite valuable being able to reroll green dice when you already have a base agility of 3, so it's good. It might be a strong option on Sunfax simply because Ensnare is so expensive. I don't think you're probably going to want to do both. Maybe Gravitic Deflection and Trick Shot. Maybe these are things worth thinking about. I think Trick Shot has a very interesting place on this ship because of its repositioning ability. Curious to see how this is kind of balanced out. I don't think Ensnare's out of the question, but I think because there are so many options with like those dual talent slots, there's going to be a lot of experimentation here, and that's just very, very cool and interesting. Okay, let's move over and take a look at this Y-Wing. First of all, its upgrade slots is Force or Talent, depending on the pilot. Turret, Torpedo, Gunner, Astromech, Bomb modification. Same as the other Y-Wing. Nothing too crazy here. Oh, should mention as well, yes, the people that commented on my last video saying that R2-D2 was going to trade the Astromech for the crew and not the Gunner for the crew. You're exactly right. That makes way more sense. I just wasn't thinking that clearly in that video. The whole idea here is R2-D2 is flying the Y-Wing from the Astromech slot on the back of it, and the pilot becomes the crew, and that's why we have this new C-3PO card. So yes, absolutely, that makes more sense. That's really cool because we have a crew-gunner combination on that particular pilot, which is very, very interesting. We don't get the full gamut of crew, gunner, and astromech like we do on the Arc 170, so I still think that's fine. Anakin Skywalker at 60 points feels actually pretty good, I gotta say. Like Initiative 6, 3 Force tokens, a lot of firepower, can take instinctive aim, proton torpedoes. It's a nice discount on him on other platforms. It seems okay. I mean, look, he's not doing the ace thing that he's doing on other platforms. I totally get that. But at the end of the day, getting a really powerful Force user for that low buy-in, I like that a lot. The buy-in cost of this platform is 33 points as opposed to 31 points on the BTLA 4 Y-Wing. So 2 more points for that baked-in ability. You do lose those blue banks, but as a lot of you have already pointed out, just putting R4 Astromech on this, I think is pretty much a given for 2 points. You basically lose all the downside of running this over one of the BTLA 4s. R4 Astromech is also great on the BTLA 4 Y-Wing, so it makes perfect sense. It basically makes this platform strictly better if you are going to take that option anyway. And look, there are some cool Astromech options here, but I just think R4 Astromech, for that low buy-in cost, it's got to go up in the next points adjustment. I think it's crazy that it didn't in the last one, but yeah, have fun with that in the meantime. Apart from that, all looks good here. Goji did not get a talent. Oh well, the rest of them here. R2-D2 getting a talent's kind of cool. That might open up some interesting options. If we just scroll down, we should have C-3PO here somewhere. Oh, no, sorry, we do have Chopper as well for 7 points. Oh, I don't know. Chopper for 7 points. That's a bit more than I would have been comfortable with. Essentially, the flaw of Chopper is he just gives you that one evade on the front card if you don't want to flip it over. Look, okay, the roof is ridiculous if you flip over Chopper and constantly pass off those negative effects to your opponent's ship. 7 points, it's more than I was comfortable with, to be honest. If we're putting on Anakin Skywalker, getting ridiculous value out of it, yes, but 7 points feels like a steal, but you got to get that value out of it. I don't think it's just good enough based on that one evade. C-3PO for 8 points seems okay. You're getting that extra reroll on defense, which feels pretty good, but right now this is only going on R2-D2 and the Y-Wing, which has that inbuilt combo, which is quite nice, or the Arc 170, and getting rerolls on those platforms is a bit meh. You got to appreciate the fact that like IG-88D on the Scum faction is only 3 points and has that same second clause where you get double the amount of calculate tokens, so This is a bit underwhelming, to be honest. I was really hoping that'd be a little bit cheaper than 8 points. But apart from that, Ahsoka Tano for 12 points feels about right. People were sort of comparing this to the Han Solo kind of effect. And while the timing window on that is a bit different, a bit more favourable for the ship it's on in the case of Han Solo, in the case of Ahsoka Tano, you get the flexibility of doing it to other friendly ships as well, which is very, very powerful. And with the way the timing works with that, you can also make a friendly ship do a red focus, and then they can do a blue maneuver and then do another action. Yeah, feels pretty good. Feels pretty good. Let's take a look at these generic upgrades as well. Okay, Foresight for 4 points. In fact, let's talk about this and Snapshot at the same time because it's a very similar effect. Snapshot is 7, 8, 9 for small, medium, or large base ships. Foresight can only be on small base ships, so you can't put this on like Maul or Dooku, medium base force users. Can't think of any right now. Wouldn't matter. Can't take it anyway. And that seems reasonable. Now, these are not scaled against initiative because the way this kind of effect works, it is actually arguably better on lower initiatives, but still valuable on higher initiatives depending on the way you build out lists. So it's just better to do it against the size of the base because obviously on a large base ship, that arc is physically larger, so making it more expensive on those is decent. Now, it is worth pointing out that Foresight, sort of on the face of it, does feel a bit more powerful, but obviously you've got that opportunity cost issue where it's got to be in the bullseye firing arc as opposed to the entire range 2 arc, so that does make it arguably harder to pull off. However, it's going to feel incredible when you get it off at range 3. 4 points definitely feels competitive. This and the next Force upgrade we're going to talk about, definitely worth talking about on a lot of the lower initiative, like generic Inquisitors, that kind of stuff. Indeed, the next thing we're going to talk about, precognitive reflexes, scaled against initiative, so 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 is 3, 3, 3, 4, 7, 10, and 13. Which is less than half of supernatural reflexes. And you got to really respect the fact that this is a very much watered down version of supernatural reflexes. Oddly enough, it doesn't actually feel great on most Initiative 6 options for it. On Vader, for example, a lot of people are talking about this, but I feel like for 13 points, specifically working against Vader's pilot ability does not feel great to me. I mean, it's not about working with pilot abilities, it's about giving yourself more options, which is great. I find the interaction with this, with Anakin, to be very interesting, because Anakin can dial in a red maneuver and then do a boost or barrel roll before he moves, and that may allow his pilot ability to work. It does switch off the baked-in ability of the Jedi Starfighter, though. It does mean they can't take any other actions after that. It feels like a big opportunity cost, but flexibility is really good as well. I don't know, 13 points is a lot. However, when we're talking about generic Inquisitors, only at 4 points, this is very good. In fact, both this and Foresight are 4 points on generic Inquisitors. And generic Inquisitors right now, in terms of meta play, are basically taking supernatural reflexes or instinctive aim, depending on the way you build them out. And I think both of these options are something that is going to absolutely have a look at. Doing the sort of supernatural build with precognitive reflexes is a big tone down in power level. It's also a big tone down in cost as well. Obviously, this also works on like other things like Jedi Knights and that kind of stuff. I'm only talking about Inquisitors because they're seeing a lot of meta play right now, and they're going to enter into hyperspace. So it's something that we're going to talk about, something that people are going to focus on. But maybe this is enough to make Jedi Knights a bit more competitive as well. And we don't really have a glut of really efficient, powerful Force upgrades right now, so both of these are very, very interesting for that reason. Apart from that, the last card we're going to have a chat about here is Targeting Computer for 3 points. This is a modification that gives any ship the target lock action. So we're talking things like TIE Fighters, TIE Interceptors, TIE Strikers, TIE Reapers, Lambdas. It could be the Nantex if FFG update that modification slot, for example. But yeah, we're largely talking about Imperial stuff here. There's obviously a lot of ships that want this kind of effect. It's very relevant in TIE Interceptors because currently they don't have any of the other ways to cheat on target locks. And I'm talking about passive sensors and direct to Krennic when I mention those things. Passive sensors cost the same as Targeting Computer, and I think passive sensors and direct to Krennic are both probably strictly better in terms of the way this works. I mean, obviously, the action on passive sensors is not strictly better, but probably mostly better than the target lock action, because you get to take the target lock when you engage as opposed to during the activation phase, which is almost always better because you know what you're going to be shooting. I've talked about this before. Director Krennic gives you a target lock action as well as giving off the condition card that comes with him as well. He cost 1 more point, but that effect for 1 more point absolutely feels worth it. So I think in general, things that can take Director Krennic almost always will, unless there's that kind of issue with redundancy, like you're flying multiple lambdas and you're going to want target locks on the other ones. You're just going to take extra targeting computers, which seems like a pretty solid strategy. I think in the case of like the TIE Phantom, it's just going to keep running with passive sensors. I don't think it's going to switch over to targeting computer. And I think there's a very high likelihood that in the next points change, passive sensors will go up by at least a point. Now, yeah, I know there's the argument around this because it's a different upgrade slot, and therefore FFG may weight it differently, like the idea that we're taking up a sensor instead of a modification in itself is more costly. I don't really love that way of thinking. I think every effect should just be costed against each other. If things are going to be more future-proofed, that's just my attitude with this kind of design in general. And I think it is pretty safe to say that targeting computer is pretty much always a worse effect than passive sensors. But for the time being, I think 3 points for it at least is correct. I don't think making it 2 points is really ideal. It feels like way too much of an auto add-on like interceptors and that kind of stuff. 3 points, you're still eating into a significant bid if you're running like Sunterfell and all that kind of stuff. But regardless, look, Sunterfell's going to have this stapled on. And that feels alright. I don't think that's too degenerate like that. It still taxes action economies. It's not a pure passive effect like other things. It's a nice bit of upside. Maybe it'll be more expensive in the future. Who knows? But I think for the time being, this feels alright. And that is it. That is all the new stuff we have for Wave 5. So what do you all think of this? Down in the comments below. Do you think Ensnare is just way too expensive and FFG are making that completely unviable? Do you think Foresight's just like way too cheap and it's going to make Force users too powerful? Would love to hear your thoughts as always. In the meantime, do not forget to like and subscribe. Like me on Facebook, follow me on Twitter and Reddit. Please consider supporting my Patreon. Above all else, it's the best thing in terms of supporting this channel right now. I appreciate every one of you that have already done that. Thank you so much to all of you, and I'll catch you in the next video.